Hello, welcome to Author Hour. I'm your host, Richard Lyntton, author of North Korea Deception and Hyde Park Deception. My guest today is Pelin Yuksel. Pelin is a teenage author who recently published her first poetry book, Drowning in Dandelions, after a traumatic brain injury. She's already won several youth poetry awards and is looking forward to publishing her second book later this year. Welcome, Pelin.
Hi, thank you for having me.
How are you? It's great thank you for coming.
Of course.
It's kind of a courageous thing to do because you just told me you've never done like a radio or a TV interview.
No, it's my first.
So what do you think of the show so far?
Well, I love it. I'm very excited to be here.
Great. Well, okay, so Drowning in Dandelions. So I wanted to be, I was telling you before the show, one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the show is because it's poetry and we haven't had a poet before. So I remember at high school, I studied Keats and Benjamin and some of the British poets, but I always feel a little bit limited when it comes to poetry. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the show. And I also feel a little bit, if I want to say, a little bit of a philistine, like ignorant about poetry. Okay. So why don't we just start off with you saying, can you tell me what is poetry for you, Pelin?
For me, poetry is just getting down to the raw, meaning of words. Mm-hmm. I think that in other types of writing, like novels and such, there's so much structure, like grammar, mm-hmm. and I've always felt confined by that. Mm-hmm. But in poetry, I can really just write whatever I want on the paper. Really, because you said you feel ignorant. Mm-hmm. I feel ignorant also, mm-hmm. but I just do whatever feels right mm-hmm. and just write down my thoughts on a paper, and this is it. Do
you write in a notebook? Do you write on a computer?
I sometimes switch between mm-hmm. notebook, computer. Sometimes I'm just walking down the stairs and I get an idea and I just type it onto the notes app on my phone.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So tell me, because one of the interesting things about why you wrote this book is you had this car accident, was it?
A brain injury.
Yeah.
So I played soccer, mm-hmm. and of course concussions are very common in soccer, but what happens if you have a concussion and you have a second concussion before the first one is healed,
right.
It can worsen it a lot and kind of make the healing process very difficult. So that's what happened. I had two, and it took many months of...
Two soccer?
Or? One soccer, and mm-hmm. then one I just hit, while standing up. I hit someone's chin.
Oh, wow. In both doing soccer? Or
no.
You just were messing around?
Yeah.
So then what happened? So you found yourself in hospital?
No, I was not in a hospital. I was just really dysfunctioning with daily activities. I had to relearn how to read. My eyes weren't working well. I had a lot of issues, but of course therapy helped.
So when was that?
This was in 2020.
Okay, so wasn't that just before sort of pandemic or just in the middle of pandemic?
Yes, in the beginning of the pandemic kind of.
Okay. So then how does that connect with you starting to write poetry, or had you already been writing poetry, and then the eventual sort of publication of your book?
So after my injury, a lot of things that I enjoyed doing, I of course couldn't do anymore. I couldn't play soccer. I also couldn't sing because of other issues. I was an avid singer and musical theater.
Wow, me too, by the way. Me too.
That's very great.
Yeah.
And I just needed to find myself again, I guess, find something that
So you're off school, you can't even go to school at this stage?
No. I was just,
Oh, well, hang on, was it online? Was it online learning?
Yes, it was online, but I could barely do it.
You couldn't even do it?
No.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then I just started writing because I was, I needed something to do. I had so much free time, and yeah, it just all went from there.
So you start writing, and then so say you have a poem, and you've written a poem. sort of thinking about your regular writing, fiction writing or non-fiction writing, when you write a poem, or tell me any one of your poems, do you then edit and edit and edit? How does that work?
Yes, I do edit a lot, because what happens is I write maybe like, since the poems I write are shorter, I can write like 4 to 5 in one sitting.
Right.
And then I go a couple days and I look back at it and I'm like, oh, well, that doesn't sound nice to me. And I change it, and yeah.
So do you, again, you said you're not sort of, it's not like that you were taught how to write poetry at school, right?
No.
So this is just you writing bare bones kind of thing, creating.
Yes.
Right.
And I never really wrote I read a lot. I've always loved to read. I started school very early at 18 months and I've always been a reader, but poetry has never been something that I was interested in.
Right.
It only started after my injury, and I've learned how to write better poetry as I've continued writing.
Right.
So
you had the second injury, things are starting to go downhill.
yes.
How long after that second injury did you so you were kind of looking for like you said, a way out, not a way out, but a way to occupy yourself. So how long was that after the second injury that you actually started creating the poems?
I would say like 3 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're there all day long, you're like nothing much is going on at home.
Yeah.
And you're starting to go a little bit crazy, I assume.
Yes.
So then was there any one day, I'm just curious, like getting right back to that very first time, that you thought, I've got to start doing something. Like, was there any one particular thing? Were you feeling miserable and depressed, or like what made you that one day start writing?
Honestly,
or don't you remember?
I don't remember exactly, but I might have been influenced by something I saw on social media, maybe like a pretty poem or just like an inspirational, something to motivate me.
Right.
And yeah.
So we do get inspired by, obviously other creative things and things we see constantly. Tell me, one thing I'm always fascinated, I don't get involved with my teenage boys. In fact, one's not a teenager too much, but I am sort of interested in how you guys, meaning young people, use social media and how things have changed drastically since, I was a teenager. How would you say, how are you either using, or how would you say that social media these days is either helping you or hindering you as a poet?
As a poet, it has definitely helped me promote my book and promote my poetry. I also think a lot of, so the app TikTok, there's an algorithm that allows you to see kind of, it bases the videos that you see off of what you've previously liked or viewed. And so a lot of the videos I see now are poetry, and it really allows me to get a kind of outlook onto other poets, especially youth poets.
Right.
Because, there's a...
So I'm learning a whole different thing here now. This is crazy. So you're saying, because my understanding of TikTok was that's just like crazy, dance things, right? So you're saying that if I go on TikTok and I start searching for like poets, there's literally people reading their poetry on TikTok.
Oh yeah, there's people sharing poems from their books. There's people just writing them just bare and just putting them on TikTok.
So should I do that as a writer, do you think? Like would it work for fiction? If I read a chapter of my book, say? Do you think? I
think it depends on the genre. If there's definitely genres that are on TikTok more, but I would give it a try because there might be something that
my audience is sort of 45 plus, so those people are not going to be on TikTok, right?
Sometimes, but I would say I've seen mostly like youth poets.
Right. And so did you start reading your poems on TikTok? Did you sort of make this, the selfie videos?
I have not.
You haven't tried that. So why haven't you tried that? Because wouldn't that work for you?
It might. Maybe I should start reading my poetry. Maybe like a couple, because I don't want to spoil my entire,
Right. So do you want to like read, would you be prepared to read one of your
Yes,
I would. Should we do that? All right, go ahead.
So this is the last poem in my book. And it's not really spoiling because it's not a fiction, novel.
Okay.
But
let's hear it.
Outside my window is a dandelion, a droplet of honey amongst a sea of green, dancing, whispering to passers-by. It waves to me, and I can't help but wonder. I am a dandelion today, for the first time in a long while. I wave back.
Oh, that's so lovely. Oh my goodness.
Thank you.
Was that like when you were sort of, I don't know, I'm just thinking out loud. Was that when you were like suddenly starting to feel better about everything?
Yes, I definitely, when I was writing, started writing with the kind of sadder, more despair type of poems.
Because you're in that kind of frame, right?
Yeah, I agree that it.
And then that one was later on when you started feeling better?
Yeah.
Right. Wow. That's
funny to look back and think about it.
and then so tell me, so you start to, now how many poems are in this book?
Like 60 to 70, I think.
Wow. So let's talk a little bit about publishing and that aspect, because then this is called Author Hour, and one of the things we like to do is just explore a little bit, how people go from just writing to publishing.
Yeah.
So tell us, how many poems have you written, like all told in your lifetime, on top of the 60 and 70? Is that sort of all your poems in there, or you've written more?
I've written more, also for my second book. I would say like 150 to 200 poems.
That's great. And so tell us how you went from just, having them written down in a notebook to thinking, you know what, I'm going to publish these.
Well, so when I was writing this, all of the poems were kind of revolved around the same topic, kind of adolescent hardship and, difficult life experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And I started thinking, this could be a manuscript. Like there's so many here. I could do something with this. So I started, ordering them, and this poem came at the end.
Yeah.
And then I looked into self-publishing. There was a possibility of that, so I reached out to a publisher just to ask, how could I get this out there? Do you have any, suggestions?
Yeah.
And then the company asked to see my manuscript, and that's how I got connected with a publishing company.
So did they make many changes to your poems?
They were very.
Respectful?
They gave me a lot of autonomy with what I could do. In terms of edits, it was more like suggestions.
Yeah.
But they were good suggestions.
So they did literally help you edit a little bit, tweak.
Yes.
Interesting. Wow. So that was great. They took the trouble, right? But again, I would be worried as a poet. I think they're a publisher, they're not really poets. They're going to change my words. But they did. You found their.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So okay. So they've said yes. And they're looking at your manuscript. Tell us a little bit more. So what did you find surprising? What did you find interesting about those next stages until your book was actually published on Amazon?
Yeah. Well, I definitely did not think it would take as long as it did. There's so many, emailing the PDF and then getting it back and re-emailing it so many times. With the cover also, I made so many changes. I sent.
I haven't shown that. Yeah, I meant to show this at the beginning. I don't know whether we can switch that, but it's absolutely fun, beautiful cover. I love it. Really, really love it.
Thank you.
And then there's Pelin on the back. Look. But yeah, tell us about the cover.
Yeah. So, I already knew that this was what I wanted. Just a girl looking up, and dandelions or something falling from the sky. So I just drew it on a paper and then sent it to them, and really it came down to
you gave them an idea, literally an illustration.
Yes, of course I didn't draw this exact thing, but it was similar. The colors and the details were a little more difficult. I had a lot of changes done. Even at the last minute I was like, can you just change this a week before it's published? Right. But it came together.
It's really beautiful. I mean, I love it. I think it's very striking. And what about the font? Did you have any thoughts about that, just out of interest?
Yeah.
Did they pick that, and you said that's great, or did you change the color?
I gave ideas about what it could be. I didn't want it to be like a normal, Times New Roman type of font, because just more abstract. So I think it was a good choice.
So how long was it before you kind of got back into school on either on Zoom, virtual, or then in person after that second concussion when things were going downhill?
I started going back to school. So I had my injury in September and then my second one in November.
Okay.
And then after that, I would say February is when I started like 25% and then 30% and then 40%.
Okay.
I would say fully, it took till about May where I had minimal symptoms.
And had you already started the publishing process by that stage?
Yeah. No. So I started the publishing process in June. I had like a couple months before where I was just researching of self-publishing or how can I get this out. How
did your friends, either your friends or your family or your teachers, how did they react when you did you share with them, and how did they react when you said, I'm publishing my book?
Well, I shared it with my English teacher in a couple months after I started the publishing process.
Which school do you go to?
I go to Wissahickon High School.
Okay, great.
I kind of kept it a little quiet when I was writing it. And after I shared and people were...
So wait, you published it before you told people?
I told people like a week or two before I published it, or like a month maybe, just, be ready for my poetry book.
Well, I just want to say and commend you because, to be honest, as a 16-year-old, that is such a courageous, brave thing to do. So don't underestimate that. I just think it's phenomenal.
Thank you.
No, seriously. And I can imagine, those feelings of, what are people going to think of me? Especially because it's poetry and not like a story or, So, God bless you. It's fantastic.
Thank you.
Really, 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 really commend you. And I hope you, you're going to do a lot more. But so what did your English teacher say?
He was very, very shocked and excited for me.
He was shocked?
Yes. And after, because, I had my whole injury and he didn't really my teacher didn't get to know me very well because I was out of school for a long time. And yeah.
So you just started with this teacher. You didn't really know him that well anyway. Was it him or her?
Him. Mm-hmm. I did know him well. Mm-hmm. He was very great in supporting me through my injury, but I have him for 2 years.
Right.
Our school does freshman and sophomore year if you're in this program, English, the same teacher. So he's definitely gotten to know me and my writing better over the months.
So what did he say when he started reading it?
Well, I actually.
Or did you just give him the book?
Well, he was very, very proud of me. I think all my other teachers and my friends were also I'm so grateful for the support that I've gotten because I did not think people would be as excited for me as they were. You know what?
It's funny not to get too sort of off the beaten track, but I love American Idol. Right, I watch American Idol every week. It's one of my favorites. I end up crying every time I watch American Idol because the thing is, it's all about people just overcoming those doubts, right? And we all have them, like those voices that says, what are people going to think? And I think it's just so great that at your age that you've sort of conquered that that first step already. And I think again, one of the reasons I thought it'd be great to have you is because hopefully you're going to inspire other people
to either write. That's my goal.
Right. So and have you had any friends saying how do you do that? I want to do that, or they want to maybe write a fiction book or a non-fiction book?
People have asked me about the publishing process. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of the comments I've gotten is that they either related with the book or emotionally connected to it.
Really?
Yeah, people have come up to me in the hallway I read your poetry book. And I've just been wow.
Oh, that's so sweet.
So exciting.
Wow, so that's people at school.
Yes.
What about any feedback from any other circles? Because you said you won an award or something. What was that? What was the award?
Yeah, I won awards for other poetry competitions. There's
before you read the book?
After I wrote the book, yeah. So this was kind of my getting into poetry book, and then after that I started writing longer poems.
Are they in the book?
More in depth, not in this book.
So you have these longer poems, and you sent those off to competitions?
Yes.
Wow. So Like, again, so what were the other longer poems about? Same sort of themes?
I wrote one about like humanity and destruction.
Wow.
That won a gold award, which I was very excited about. I wrote another one about one of my grandparents. Yeah.
How do you feel about the, and say as much or as little as you want to, but how do you feel like when you see the war in Ukraine right now, does that make you, is that an area that you would want to explore, or is it sort of not really on your radar at the moment?
I definitely would. I think there's a lot of difficult ideas or like words I can pull from that.
Mm-hmm.
Just like there's so many like individual experiences that I could write about. I haven't thought about it, but now that you mention it,
Mm-hmm.
I definitely could.
Yeah. Let me go back to another thing I wanted to ask you. So when you write a book, how would you recommend to other people to actually publicize it? Like, how do you because we all know that it's not enough just to put a book on Amazon, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just curious, again, maybe I'll learn something from you, but how did you go about that? Did the publisher help you with that? For like getting it out there, like publicizing, marketing? Oh,
marketing, yes. They were very helpful on social media. I've been trying to publicize it. Just for my family, I've been telling them, can you tell other people? Yes. Just reaching out, I think, is the biggest thing. I'm still working on publicizing it because it just came out. But.
Well, it's a full-time job, isn't it? I always say to people, 35% of writing a book or any kind of book is the writing of it.
Yes, yes.
And 65% is literally telling people and getting it out there. So do you have any advice for people, how to do that?
I would say just talk about it and just talk to people
But that's kind of hard sometimes, isn't it? Because you don't want to feel...
Yes, because you're like, you don't want to force them to do it. So I always am just this like, oh, check it out. Maybe you'll enjoy it,
right.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. And you have to be, you have to toot your own trumpet kind of thing. Tell us about do you have any particular times of the day you write? Do you when you write, do you have to have silence? Do you like go to a park or a stream? Tell us a little bit about that.
I love writing in silence. I will use noise canceling headphones to block out any noise.
So you'll be at home generally in your bedroom?
Yes.
And do you have a set time to write, or do you just sort of say, okay, I feel like writing?
I feel like writing. Like there'll be a week that goes by without me writing anything, and then I'll just get a burst of like 3 poems at once.
Really? And how long might you sit down for a session?
Up to like longer poems. So sometimes it takes me honestly like 10 minutes.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes it takes me an hour.
Right.
You really never know because I change and rechange the poems over and over again while writing.
Right.
So.
Do you read out loud?
No.
You don't?
No.
Because I always find reading out loud when I write really helps. So I'm just curious you should try that.
Yeah.
Literally read it out loud.
I also like looking at pictures of something that relates to whatever I'm writing. Like if I'm writing about a physical object, just looking at the colors and trying to visualize it in my head.
Right. Where does this lead for you in an ideal world? You said you've got another book coming out. By the way, is the second book going to include some of those longer ones that you won awards for?
No.
Still not. So I'm just curious about that. Explain why they don't fit with the next book.
Well, they are just so long. Like, I think one of them is like 3 pages.
Okay.
Also, with the style of writing is much different. The topic is different. Yeah.
Right. So and how is it different? Just out of curiosity.
So I wrote it to fit the style of the competition.
Okay.
So for a specific award I wrote it about.
So what was that one particular one?
It was about like humanity and like global warming kind of.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you won. You won the award.
Yes, I won an award for it.
Great. It's so great.
Thank you.
But I still think, so you wouldn't want to put that longer one in the next book? I feel
No,
no?
but I actually would still love to get it out and have people read it though.
Well, maybe you put that, because we're talking about your website, and maybe you put it on the website, and because it is all about not to get too technical, but it is all about metadata. I find you just have to keep. It's like an onion, and you just keep layering, and you find that one thing leads to another. So I think you should at least get it up on.
No, I agree. I really would like to get it out there instead of just sitting in the competitions database.
Right. So and then sorry, I was just wanting to ask. So where does this lead? You're only 16. What do you think you might study later at college? Is this just like a passion or a hobby, or how do you see your poetry fitting in with your future goals and dreams?
So I would definitely say that this is a passion. I don't know if I would pursue writing in the future. I actually want to go to medical school.
Oh, you do?
And
wow.
Neuroscience is something that I'm interested in. So I think will always be a side kind of outlet for me, because I know if you're in kind of a strenuous field like that, it's good to have things that
have an outlet.
Yes, exactly.
And so what would you advise people, or how would you advise people to start writing? Like if they, because that's how we began the conversation, just maybe speak a little bit about how useful and important it is that when you have an issue, just the physical act of writing it down just really helps. Yeah.
I mean, for me, it's just writing whatever is in my brain and not judging what I'm writing, because I do that a lot. This is not good or this doesn't sound good, but putting that aside and just letting the words flow out of your brain, whatever comes out.
And so so in other words, not to put words into your mouth, but so in other words, just the physical act of writing, just you have found just brings sort of healing in a way, right?
Yeah, it's therapeutic, I think.
Therapeutic is a good word.
Yeah.
Wow. Do you want to read one more poem just as we finish?
Sure. If I can.
If you can find one. I don't want to put you on the spot. It doesn't really matter which one. It's just nice to hear you read.
Here's one. Mm-hmm. Honey, sweet, golden brown, filling in the cracks like cement, hardening, imprisoning. I can't breathe, but I never realized how one spoonful could lead me to want more.
Lovely. Thank you. Really, really fun. And what would you say to any young person who is sort of wanting to write, but they just have those voices saying, "Oh, I'm not good enough," or "I'm worried about what people think about me"?
I would say, don't hesitate and do it, not because you want to do something big or just because you want to try something new. I would say, yeah.
And I think also to that, I think the thing about art and creativity is that you're not doing it. Don't do it for like fame and fortune.
Yeah, exactly.
Do it for yourself.
Exactly.
I think that's the key. And then what about how many books do you think you have in you? Like, do you think you could write like 4 or 5, or you think like?
I think I could, if I have the time to.
Yep.
I would definitely. I love sitting down and writing, and if I could create something out of it, like a book, and continue to create books, that would be great.
Right.
I don't know. We'll see.
Pelin, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
It's been fascinating. How was it? Was it as nerve-wracking as you thought? Or was
no,
okay?
It was very fun. It was fun.
Well, you did great.
Come
back again when you write your second book, and please keep writing and doing other creative things. It's really important. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
And just so you know, you can look at Drowning in Dandelions. You can get it on Amazon in the Kindle and paperback format. Book 2 will be coming out later this year, as Pelin said. And also a quick plug for my new non-fiction project, which is called Cottage to Palace. It's a non-fiction memoir of my great aunt Flo, who traveled the world with 2 Queen Elizabeths for 30 years. It's called From Cottage to Palace, and that is also available now on Amazon and Kindle. Be good. See you next time.